Definitely people getting hacked, people losing money. I hate when I hear it. There's so many scams out there. Be very weary of trusting people, and one that you don't know or something that just comes up on the internet that you hear about. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Hey everyone, if you got value out of this, please like, share, subscribe, and comment to help us with the algorithm so we can find more people like yourself that are trying to find faith in the financial services industry once again. What's up, guys? So we're going to jump right into it. We never ever like to waste time, not like other podcasts. So I got Lorenzo here, Lorenzo Abbatiello, and just kind of tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do for a living.
For sure. So I'm a CPA, been a CPA for about 12 years now, and really made my name in the crypto space. I've been in crypto since 2016, 17. Started really becoming a professional in the space right shortly after. One of my buddies had a lot of Bitcoin offshore. We brought everything onshore and came clean with everything and such. And that was a really good project to start me in the space. And from there, you get buddies that refer you and such. And really in 2018, things started to pick up when I started moving people over to Puerto Rico. Started working with a lot of individuals who been successful in the space, and you got to find them solutions. So we started getting involved in Puerto Rico tax loopholes or tax incentives, we call them. And obviously then crypto started to grow even further. People making projects and such, and you start having individuals getting more on the corporate side and less on the individual side. And that just started to evolve. Fast forward to today, where we've been in the space for some time now and serviced, we're in now thousands of people that we've serviced. We're now starting to get into the audits, starting to get to more on the planning side, how to give people the solution of the estate planning side. People have done really, really well in the space, and they need help for themselves, their family, businesses that they've started, partners that they've brought on. Then you have obviously now the government's starting to come out and come after people for this stuff for not reporting it properly, and getting the right technology to help these people get to the, how much they've made or lost, and to compare it to what the government has. We use the same technologies that they have. So that's really where the business has come to today. It's been a journey. We've seen a lot and learned a lot. And I would say at the moment, we definitely are some of the leaders in the space.
Man, you brought up something that I didn't even know. So corporate crypto, explain that. I had no clue that corporations had crypto.
Yes, some hold it on their balance sheet. The big questions are hey, I bought this crypto when it was Bitcoin when it was 50, 60,000, and now it's 20,000. What do we do with that? So you have businesses that collect crypto. I mean, us as a CPA firm, we work in the space. So I drink the Kool-Aid. I'll accept crypto from clients, and if that's income, right? If someone pays me in Ethereum, that's income, just like I was to get cash.
Yep.
So it needs to be reported the same way. And then you have NFT businesses, companies like Nike made NFTs, Adidas made NFTs, that's income. And we worked with some big name corporate clients. I mean, we won't name them, but these people made NFT projects and collected money. So in these instances, what do you do? How do you record that? How do you pay people out expenses? I mean, just like QuickBooks, you're doing QuickBooks for a client, you do the same thing, but just in the crypto space with a different technology.
Okay. So just off topic here, I got a client that may or may not have $80 million in Bitcoin. So if you were to walk into that room and say, hey, he wants to retire today, but he doesn't know how to use crypto to retire, what do you say?
Well, I mean, there's plenty of ways they could do it. You can leverage off of it. I mean, it's money. Think of it as a lot of people in the crypto space kind of hate on the fiat world, but there is a place for that. And a lot of the principles from the fiat space have really affected and positioned crypto to do what it does, quote unquote, better. So right now, though, you would have to ask this person, do you want to keep your Bitcoin? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to diversify? Do you have $80 million in cryptos enough? I think people can live off of that. So how do you want to chop that up? Do you want to hold on to this and until, because you're thinking Bitcoin's going to be, at its all-time high again, and you don't want to lose out on that upside? Well, in those situations, then we can leverage off of it. We work with a family office with one guy that can loan off of your crypto versus like these BlockFi or Celsius of the world that they were these big names, but look where they're at now. If you would have put $80 million onto that platform, you'd have zero. And that's the biggest thing when you're working with crypto. The risk of loss in many instances is 100%, and that's a real big risk. That's 100% risk of loss.
Right. The whole reason why you go do that though is so you don't have to wait for the slow gains of the S&P 500, right? So it's risk reward.
Risk reward, but you have to be strategic with it. You know, a lot of people who don't know what to do in the space, or they're early or they're new, they put themselves in positions where they think that they're not taking on a lot of risk, but they actually are. If you talk to anyone who's seasoned in the space, they've all lost money. So what I would suggest, if you're new or you're looking to get into the space, learn from the mistakes of others, because yes, it's new, it's exciting, but you're dealing with your money, and the risks that you would take, the risks that you won't take with your dollars, why would you do it with crypto? Because it's money at the end of the day. Just because it's crypto, you don't expose yourself, because you would never have exposed yourself in the same way with your dollars.
Right. You said something huge there. We call it ignorance debt. So I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is. He talks a lot about paying down ignorance debt. So if you start in the industry of crypto and it takes you 7 or 8 years to get to the point where you're at, of losing money, gaining money, getting screwed, quote unquote, why not just listen to a mentor? That's what mentors get paid for, is the ignorance debt. So, like, can you tell me a little bit about the BS you're running into in the market? So, like the myths, the pros, the cons, just a little bit of everything that you see on a day-to-day basis.
If someone is calling themselves a crypto tax expert, put your guards up. I always say, give them a few questions here. And if they're not confident with the answers to them of, how have you helped people similar to me? What were the results? What have you done? Show me a track record, because there's so many quote unquote experts these days. They picked up a few crypto clients, they kind of got the gist of it, and now they saw that there's opportunity and they're trying to exploit the market. I've been in this for a long time. I've been ahead of the curve in many instances. Now, time has passed now, so there are people out there who do have experience in this space. It's not like, I would say back in 2021 was really bad, where someone worked with a couple of crypto clients and now all of a sudden this is what they do. So you have to be really weary of people calling themselves experts. You have to have a track record, because a job that will take someone who's very novice in this space can take tens, even hundreds of hours in some cases. And you're going to get a really big bill for that. So a job that someone would charge, let's go $15,000, $10,000 for, I can do for $2,500, $3,000, because I can get it done quick. My processes are there. So don't believe everything what people say. I mean, that goes with in a lot of instances, but especially in this case, because you will pay for it.
So anybody who's anti-crypto, or just says, what is crypto and why should I invest in it? You just said something that might scare people off. So how do you bring them back in and say, crypto is good, this is how crypto could help you in your life?
Well, I think if anyone who's, what I really love crypto for, someone who's got some money, they have the liquidity, or maybe even if they don't, but they're a little bit more close to that retirement age. I see the future to be bright in crypto. Just because there's been a few speed bumps along the way doesn't mean that the future is not bright. And for someone who's trying to do better than these S&P gains, or better than 2 to 12% a year in gains, and sometimes it's even losses, if you have a little bit of time, and anyone who's in that retirement age, they generally are pretty settled, and they do have that time. They're okay waiting 3 more years. They've worked their whole lifetime. And I see, like I said, the future being bright for this. So if someone is in that, call it 50 to 70 range, and they need to make a little bit extra, they really were looking to do a little bit better than the market, I think crypto's a great place for that. But you just got to have patience, and you can't get scared if the market drops 50% from where it is right now. If it drops 50%, I'd say invest more. but be careful about it. Don't be reckless about it. So there's a lot of schools, a lot of education out there now. So I would say before nose diving in, I'd say take the time and look on YouTube, follow a few influencers that you like on YouTube just to learn something from. There's different programs. Now there's also being a little bit more mainstream and going with the mainstream coins. And then there's getting a little creative in this DeFi space. Now, if you're getting into the space, I would say ease your way in. Don't go straight into all these, your friend told you about this project, it's going to 100x or what. And I'll give you a perfect example. There's a little bit older of a community. So they went to that more of that I'll call boomer market. And the guy did have a track record in regular business, but not really so much track record in crypto, and raised a ton of money. People were expecting this huge gains, and they went really hard in. Some of them were my clients, so I'd see the money. They put a significant amount of their portfolio into this, and it hasn't panned out. I'm not saying it won't in the future, but it hasn't panned out. So, but they got a little too creative. So you got to know what your limits are, and don't get too creative with this. Like, you have your mainstream coins, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum. Those two are being looked at. Look at what the government's saying. They're saying that Bitcoin is like safe. They're saying Bitcoin is not considered a security. The government is saying that. US government is saying that. So all these other projects will be subject to all these new rules, because they're saying that Bitcoin's not going to. They're saying that's a commodity still. It's not going to be a security. You don't see that in the regulatory headlines. But all these other XRP, they're going after all these like influencers that promoted these like their own tokens and their own projects. Don't get a little too sexy with it. And if you're going to get sexy with it, don't dump your majority of your portfolio into it. Know what your risk is, and 100% loss is your risk.
Yep. So would you say that you can't be an emotional investor in crypto?
It's hard because people get emotional with it. People love it. They go crazy for this stuff. And that's the allure to it, right? So you have this draw. People get obsessed. They start researching. They spend hours. They're up till 5 o'clock in the morning just researching. And I see it because it's exciting. So it's hard to not get emotional, but you got to set rules for yourself like any trader does and stick with them.
Gotcha. I have a client, actually worked with him back in 2008. He makes about $40,000 a month, and he sticks about 30,000 into crypto every single paycheck. So like, what do you say to that person? I know you say some people are obsessed with it. That's where they spend their time. But like, do you believe putting that much of your portfolio into crypto is smart? And I'll tell you, he's only about 31 years old, so he has plenty of time to make it back up.
For me to say it's good or bad, that's up to him. If that's what he's willing to do and he's willing to risk, because at the same time, okay, he's dumping all that money into it, and if the bet plays off well, he's a genius. And if it doesn't, then you got to learn from your mistakes. But if he's comfortable with that, have fun. Now, there may be a point where he maybe thinks he has enough, and there's other things you could do with your money. And I think he should recalibrate those decisions after, let's call it every 6 months or every quarter or every year, and recalibrate. Okay, this is what I've done. This is what I'm making. This is what's changing in my life. It's definitely not a decision that you just make once and then just let it sit. I think it's a decision that you need to recalibrate every quarter, every biannually, annually, do whenever.
Yep.
Preferably every quarter is a great time to look at things.
Well, I know most people see CPAs as a really old school way of thinking. I don't want to save my people tax because that's audit risk. So like with this client, he took 4 figures and turned it into 7 figures with Dogecoin. It was an accident. But let's say he came to you and he's like, hey, this happened. What would you do to mitigate taxes? Or if you can't really give that advice, just say, how would you handle that client?
Well, I'll shed a little light on that. So for someone who went from 4 to 7 figures, I mean, that's a big win. At that point, I would always suggest take a little off the table. Because this market tends to follow a very similar pattern. And in 2 minutes, I can show you 10 charts of 10 different coins, and they're going to follow the same pattern. So if you had a run up like that, I highly suggest to recalibrate that portfolio and take something off the table. Now, there's different ways that you can do this now. Are you charitable? Are you trying to reinvest this in some sort of way? You're dealing with capital gains. Is this long-term? Is this short-term? What do you have going outside of this? Can you offset that income with something else? Can you do what I really like in a lot of these instances, especially because if someone's going from 4 to 7, it seems like they're sort of coming into new money. So we want to try and keep as much of that as possible. It's not like he's got a vast array of different assets that he can loan off of this to pay the taxes. So in those situations, it seems like it's more new money. So I'm going to try and keep as much of that as possible, so he can have it for himself and reinvest it to grow it further. So you'd have to do a lot of capital gains mitigation. And then there's a handful of ways this go. And then, there's always this, I call it like these 3 different situations that you got to compromise on. It's like, one, do you want to lose control of these assets? That may help. Do you want to, invest in something else? Do you want to, sometimes, honestly, the answer is pay the taxes and move on. Some people are happy with that, but it's different for every person. But there's definitely things that you could do. Well, one thing I would suggest, and this is with 100% of the cases, is you got to get ahead of these things. Do not wait till afterwards. And that's a big thing about CPAs. CPAs like to work in the past. I take a much more CFO approach of thinking forward. So if you are in these situations and you're either thinking about selling or you've made the sale already, you want to do the planning within that tax year, because your options greatly get reduced if you wait till the following tax year.
Gotcha. I've always been told that 12/31 is the most important day in a person's life.
It's very important. Honestly, it can cost you millions of dollars, because you're not talking about the tax hit in year 1, because you'd look at that tax hit that you would have to pay if you didn't plan appropriately. But also, now your guy's 31 years old. Take that however many dollars that you would have had, and now let's model that out for his lifetime. And if you would have had an extra $250,000 right today, how much is that worth 30 years down the line?
Oh, it's huge. Huge. So one thing I wanted to talk about, because I see a lot of automated like keyboard trolls on social media that talk about Forex. So what is Forex for a dummy that's never even heard of crypto?
Foreign currency trading. You can trade the US dollar just like you trade Bitcoin, just like you trade Tesla. You can trade, the yen or the euro. It's like a commodity that changes in value every day, and you can trade it. So a lot of traders like to work with Forex trading with foreign currencies, because you can take advantage of small little swings. It's a little bit more stable, or certain currencies are a little bit more stable and they kind of follow certain patterns. And a lot of traders like to do that, and they do it algorithmically so it can follow certain rules. So banks do this, people do this, individuals do this. Like it's a lot of people trade this industry. So the liquidity is enormous. Gotcha. So if you're looking to get into it, the one thing I would say, there's a lot of scams currently going on of people that are saying, give me your money and we'll trade Forex for you. Be very careful with that.
So I had a really good friend, his dad back in 2015 said he had $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. No, 2014. $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. I think it came out to like 200 Bitcoin, something like that. He ended up selling it about a month before it peaked, and didn't make near as much money as he should have. So like, when did you get into the crypto space, and kind of what was your first choice of crypto and why?
First crypto was Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
So it was 2016, 17. I was buying it for, I remember I had I spent like $3,000. I think I was looking at it, and I had like a few Bitcoin. I just put it in, I remember riding it up. That was when Bitcoin was between like 2,000 and 3,000. So I bought a few of them. I remember riding it up to like 12K. and selling. And then it went up to 19K. I'm like, and I started buying more the whole way down. So I learned, my first thing was I got bit by the bug, because all of a sudden I remember having a lot of money more in stocks, and I just put a little money in crypto, and it just like 4x'd quick. And I got bit by the bug, and then it started, I just rode it all the way down. I kept doubling down. I kept doubling. I lose half, I doubled down. I lose half, I doubled down. I lose half, I doubled down. It was horrible. I lost a lot of money. And that was when my buddy, who I started working with, was like, listen, stick with this. I'm telling you, stick with this. There's so many people who need your help. I was living in New York at the time, and he called everyone in Long Island, was all these firms, and no one knew anything about crypto, like, success, like big firms. And he's like, just stick with this, Lorenzo. I know it hurts. Like, this happened to me too. Like, everyone loses money. You lost your money. Now you gotta be smart. Ride the next wave. It'll go up again. It's like, now we're in the bear market now. Just like we are right now. We're in the bear market. Now's the time to accumulate. Honestly, if someone wants to get into crypto, now's a good time.
So there's a lot of platforms out there like Webull and other places. Where would you tell someone to go? Or is there even a platform that's better than the other, or any reason why you should choose a different platform?
There's two things I would tell people if you're going to get started. One, go with a reputable one. Webull and places like Webull and Robinhood, you don't hold your crypto, which is good and bad. I mean, for someone starting out, I think it's okay. I'd probably go more with like a Coinbase, very reputable. I mean, I don't think Coinbase is going anywhere. They've been here for a bit. If Coinbase goes down, we got a real big problem. There's not really doing any fraud. I mean, they've been audited up the kazoo. The CEOs of, do your research. I mean, he's a really smart guy. He wants to be regulated. He encourages regulation, and he's doing everything that he can to keep it above water. So, and above board when it comes to terms of just compliance. So Coinbase is a great place. But one thing I really would encourage people is crypto security. Get something like a ledger. So something like this. So a USB drive. Okay. Now, what this is I have Bitcoin and other cryptos on here. Now, this is a protection, because if someone tries to hacks me, let's say I click a link, or I give my password out to someone or whatever, and they get onto my computer, unless this is plugged in and I push these code, to put the code in and push these buttons, this crypto is not moving anywhere. If it's sitting on Coinbase and they hack in, they can take my money. It's not that hard. There's a lot of scams out there. You click a link on your phone, they're saying like, oh, your package arrived, or your bank, something happened with your bank, click this link. They get into your phone, they do a SIM card swap, they can 2FA, and they can go into your Coinbase and send money places. So that's the part of this that I feel terrible about with people. They get into the space. I had an older gentleman lose $150,000 like this because he sent the money to a wrong address. He just sent the money somewhere, and I can't do anything about that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because my dad put $1,000 about 5 years ago into Bitcoin and something else, and he got up to about 15,000, and he had a situation in his life where he had to liquidate it to make some money. He went to go look, and it was gone. So I'm glad you brought that up. So you said, is there any kind of reputable brands out there that you would use for those type of drives?
Ledger. Yeah. Ledger's like the main company. That there's Trezor and stuff, but Ledger is super. It's easy. It's simple. They've been around for a bit. And spend the extra money, get the digital one. It's totally worth it. If you're going to put significant money, and significance subjective, that's for any single person. It could be $1,000, it could be $1 million. It's significant is significant to you. If you want it to be safe, invest the money and get one of these things.
Gotcha. Well, kind of some closing thoughts. What are some things you see out there that you're disgusted by? Or what are some things you like, not really advice, because I know we don't want to give any advice on this channel. What's some things you would tell people that are listening that think, okay, crypto sounds good, or hey, just taxes in general?
So something I'm disgusted with, definitely people getting hacked, people losing money. I hate when I hear it. There's so many scams out there. be very weary of trusting people and one that you don't know, or something that just comes up on the internet that you hear about. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If they're going to trade money for you, I'd be very, very weary. Try not to be too sexy with it. Dollar cost average into Bitcoin, to Ethereum, the main projects, to start getting your feet wet if you want to dabble. Security is super important. Make that number one for you, because just because it never happened to you, it happens every day to people, every day. So crypto security should be a really, really up there on your priority list if you're going to get into this space. So make security a priority. Don't trust everyone on this. Do your due diligence, and do, like, really take the time to educate yourself on this stuff. And if that revolves around you joining in on a course or getting a mentor, so if you're confused about something, ask someone first. Ask someone who's been in the space. If is this right? Like, I'm a little confused on this. So if you're new to it, I would say, like I said, do that research. That would be definitely one of the things that I would recommend to anyone. Well, other closing thoughts, taxes, right? So I'm a CPA. One of the first things I would do is get on a crypto tax software. I like one called Coinly for the everyday investor. It starts with a K, KOINLY.io. I don't get anything out of this. I'm not, shilling anything or plugging anyone. I like to use it for the everyday investor. You can start an account for free. You basically just attach whatever wallets or exchanges that you're using to it, and it tracks all your transactions. So I would routinely look at that and see what your activity is. So if you make a really important trade, I would look at that and see how it affects your taxes. Because there's one thing about crypto that's a lot different than stocks. You can move it around. And when you move it around, you can cause taxable events that you may not have considered. So your tax situation may look a lot different at the end of the year than what you expected. So I really encourage everyone to get on a crypto tax software and plug it in so they can track their trades throughout the year. And do it throughout the year so it's not such a big task at the end of the year when you're trying to remember something that you did a year and a half ago.
Unrecognized gains?
Well, there's recognized and then there's unrecognized. Unrecognized, you didn't sell yet. Recognized, you executed on a trade and it's taxable. So you want to have an understanding of both of those numbers, because that will help you plan as well. If you're sitting on $500,000 or $1 million of unrealized gains, then if you're going to move something or sell something, you're going to have a big taxable event that you should be planning for. And it's much easier to plan when things are unrecognized than when they're recognized. Again, it's getting ahead of the trade.
CBDC, what are your thoughts on that? And what are the negatives you see from CBDC, or do you see it even happening?
It's probably going to happen. It's kind of ironic that with crypto it was all about privacy and keeping things a little bit more, I don't want to use the word secretive, but just, you do have a layer, like a blanket over a crypto transaction where it's just a string of numbers and letters and not, Dustin's money. Like you need to know that wallet address is yours to make it be known. So with CBDCs, it's almost like the opposite. Everything is going to be recorded. You're going to be able to know exactly what someone has. You're going to be able to turn money on and off if it's being able to be controlled by a centralized, entity. There's positives to it. So I think if it's used in a wrong way, just like anything, it could be negative. But if it's used in a positive way, it can be positive. I think you can get a much better grasp of local taxes and taxes in general with a CBDC. I think that you can use money more efficiently. I mean, one of the biggest benefits of crypto is international money transfers. I mean, sending a wire is like archaic at this point.
Yep.
I had to send $15,000. I was in Italy to someone, and it got kicked back 3-4 times from Chase. I was like, can I just send you like USDC? You'd have the money in 2 minutes, less. for a fraction of the cost too. So there is benefits to this and efficiencies from it, but there are negatives as well. It can be controlled. It can be turned on and off. You know, you can know exactly when what someone has. If you send me money or I collect money in my business as a CBDC, could deduct a tax immediately. So there are efficiencies, and efficiencies sometimes may be looked at as negative to the consumer, but a positive to the government or a positive to another entity. So it has both sides. So I'm not going to be one of those people that's up here like trashing CBDCs and saying, oh, this is bad for the world and this and that. It's bad if it's used bad. It's good if it's used in a good way. Now, do you trust the government to use it correctly and to use it in a good way? That's another story.
So on the FedNow system, do you believe that's like a first step to the CBDC, or what do you think about the FedNow system?
It's a first step for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, the way that we handle taxes in this country and is archaic. I mean, voting, like you go to Estonia. Estonia has been doing voting on blockchain since I think the 90s. So you vote, it's linked to like your ID and to your like social security number that you voted, and it's on a blockchain. So if we did something like I'd be in favor of something like that. I think that shows fairness. It's transparent. So that's what I'm saying, is that there are positives to this.
Right. So blockchain election, you could have results in 5 minutes if you just had everybody pull out their phone and vote, right?
Right.
Yep. No room for 400,000 vote dumps overnight.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's save politicians all the trouble there. You know, like they can, no one needs to go to court to and with taxes, I mean, listen, taxes are, you know, who wants to pay taxes? But it's a necessary part of the country, and you know, if it was used more efficiently, I think people wouldn't have such a problem with it. But and if they saw the fruits to it, I think it'd be a lot more digestible to pay those taxes.
For sure.
And a FedNow system will make it easier. I think it needs to be easier to pay taxes and to manage taxes in this country. So I don't disagree with an update, but like I said, if it's used incorrectly, I mean, it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be fun.
Right. Understood. That's the way I see it. Man, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you at Spectrum Planning Group. Besides that, we'll have everything linked below to go find Lorenzo if you want to use him as a CPA, or if you have some questions on crypto. Lorenzo, if someone wanted to find you, where do they go?
LorenzoTax.com. You know, we have our firm originsgroup.com. So it's my personal brand one, Lorenzo Tax. You can book a call. We do free 15-minute calls. You know, I have the staff. You have great staff. They've been in the space for a really long time. You know, anything related to crypto, more than happy to give you, you know, advice or direction on. It doesn't always have to be we're going to be using our service. I mean, we're looking to be a, you know, we're go-to people in the space, so we're willing to help anyone out in whichever way that we can. We also have a course. So if you're more in like that DIY type of a person, you want to do it yourself, we do a crypto course as well, which you can get and see how we do our process internally, and you can do it for yourself, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, guys, make sure you share this. If you got any value out of it, we need to make sure we spread this.